ויעש יהושע כאשר אמרנו משה להילחם בעמלק ומשה אהרון וכו' אז יש לנו יוסף וגם לפני אדוני שבגואלי בינום אדוני אלוהינו בינום אדוני ומעשה ידינו
Hello, my name is Rabbi Pesach Krohn, and I am so honored to participate in this wondrous program about getting people to stop talking during davening in shul. You know, every morning we say Matoivu, and there's one phrase in there that really strikes me. David HaMelech says, Va'ani beroiv chastecha ovay veisecha. Hashem, with your abundant kindness, I come to your shul, to your home. Now, you know, we don't look at a shul that way. You know, we just walk into a shul as if it's nothing. But David HaMelech had the right attitude. He had the attitude, Hashem, I am so grateful that you allow me to come to your home. Now, you could imagine if David HaMelech looks at it that way, of course, he would be so careful of how he behaves in shul. And I think we have to take the lead from there. I want to tell you another thing. You know, you wouldn't believe this. If you have not heard this before, you will be surprised. You take a look at the Ramah, Hilchos Tefillah, Siman Tzadik Ches, and Sifkot and Aleph. It says like this: Asur la'odam lenashek bonav haktanim bebeis hakneses. Did you know that you're not allowed to kiss your children in a shul? Why? Kedei lekvoya beliboy, so that it should become established in your heart. She'ein avo ka'avas hamokim, like there's no love like the love that you have to Hashem. So imagine, you're in a shul and you can't kiss your own children. Now, some people say that's only during davening, but whatever it is, the point is there is a certain holiness, there's a certain dedication and focus that we're supposed to have to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if we look at a shul this way, that it's a privilege to be there, and the main love is towards Hashem, then of course we're going to be respectful. So I want to tell you a little story. A number of years ago, I had the opportunity to speak on the same program with Rav Matisyahu Solomon Zolzang Gesund. And he asked an amazing question. He said the Pasuk tells us, and it says actually in Shulchan Aruch, that a person should not speak Sichas Chulin when the Shliach Tzibur is repeating the Shemoneh Esrei. And if he does, it's Gadol Avoinai Min Hasai. The sin is so great that you can't even bear it. So Rav Matisyahu says, come on. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't eat Yom Kippur. He didn't drive on Shabbos. What's the big avera of speaking during HAZARA Hashatz? And he said, who said that? Cain said that when he killed a quarter of the world. So is talking in shul or talking during HAZARA Hashatz, is it such a great avera? Now I want to tell you something. I still don't remember what he answered. But I know that suddenly a thought came into my head and it changed me. And if it could change me, it could change you. You know what I was thinking? Imagine that you're in court and a lawyer is defending you. And as the lawyer is pleading his case in front of the judge, all of a sudden, the judge sees that you're talking. You say, guy, hey, how you doing? I didn't see you at the Shom Zoch. Everything okay? Or you could say, who won the Super Bowl? And the judge says, what, is this guy crazy? The lawyer is defending him and he doesn't care? And then a second and a third time, you start talking. And then the lawyer says, the judge says, listen, you know, if this guy doesn't care, throw him out of the court. I don't want to have anything to do with him. And that's the worst thing. That's the worst thing. Because when Cain was sent out of Gan Eden and Hashem didn't want to have anything to do with him, that's the worst. That's the worst thing. Now, in other words, what we're saying is like this, that when the Chazan stands up there, and I say, from the moment that he says brachas, he's representing us. He's saying, Hashem, thank you, that we can see. He's not only talking about himself. He didn't say thank you that I could see. He said thank you that we can all see. Thank you, Zoikev Kafufin, that we can stand up and we can walk and we can breathe. We have a heart to understand. He's talking for us. So imagine you're in front of the judge, right? The lawyer who's a shliach tzibur. He's defending you. He's pleading for all of us. And you don't care? So then if the judge says, I throw you out, I don't want to have anything to do, that's what Hashem is saying. Kaviyachal. So I think we're not talking about when you first walk into shul and nobody's up there by the yama that you shouldn't say hello to your friend. I'm not going to say anything that is just impossible for the tzibur to accept. But this I say, from now on, the moment a fellow is at the amid, he's the lawyer, he's defending, he's pleading for you and your family, be respectful. Be at least as respectful as you would be in a court. In a court, I can tell you, I had to defend someone's character a couple months ago. Oh, people were shaking in the court. You don't say a word in front of the judge unless the judge asks you what you want to say. And that's how you should look at a shul, as a courtroom. I just want to end just with this thought. You know, there's a fascinating Gemara at the end of Megillah, and it tells us that at the end of time, the Beis Hamikdash, you know how big the Beis Hamikdash is going to be? As big as the city of Yerushalayim. Could you imagine? As big as Yerushalayim is today, with all the neighborhoods, Maladafna, Matersdorf, and everything, that's how big the Beis Hamikdash is going to be. And how big is Yerushalayim going to be? As big as the whole Eretz Yisrael. That's how big it's going to be. Take a look at the Masha and Megillah Chavtes Amud Aleph. You know what he says? Because every shul today, the shuls in Borough Park, the shuls in Chicago, Los Angeles, in Argentina, in Chile, Mexico, wherever, somehow, and I believe if Chazal say it's going to happen, that's how it's going to be. The Gemara tells us all the Batik Nesiyos of Bavel, of Golis, are going to be attached to Beis HaMikdash. So every shul that you're in now comes out, you're in part of the Beis HaMikdash. Imagine if you're in the Beis HaMikdash. You see the menorah, you see the Lechem Aponim, you see the Shulchan. Are you going to chant? Are you going to talk Narishgate? Are you going to say anything except what belongs to be said in the Beis HaMikdash? Your shul, no matter where you're davening, even if it's a storefront, eventually it's going to be part of the Beis HaMikdash. It's a Mikdash Ma'at. I'm begging all of you, please, for the sake of your family, for the sake of yourselves, for your parnasa, for your health, for your welfare, for your shalom bayis, for your kids' shalom bayis, for your kids' schooling, so that the kids should remain from and good. Let's treat the Beis HaKnesses like really it's supposed to be, like David HaMelech says, like a Mikdash Ma'at. I hope we'll all change. Thank you.
Rabotai, once again, I address you about the importance of proper decorum in the Bet Knesset. What I mean by proper decorum in today's talk is being careful not to speak in the Bet Knesset at the times that it is forbidden, which probably is from the time you walk in until you leave. Clearly it includes the reading of the Sefer Torah, and certainly it includes the HAZARA, the Amidah. Let's talk about those two specific items before we eat something that's too big to bite. The parashiyot that we're reading now all talk about Mitzrayim. Most of us have no connection to Mitzrayim. Most of us were never there. Our grandparents didn't work in Egypt, so it's ancient history. But the Mekubalim, they learn a very important lesson from Mitzrayim by looking at the letters. Well, if you look at the first letter of the word Mitzrayim, it's a mem. It's called an open mem because it's a letter that starts the word. It's called mem patuah. Well, if you look at the last letter of Mitzrayim, it's also a mem, but that's a closed mem. We call it a mem sofit, or we call that mem satu. Well, it's interesting that the Gemara in Shabbat says something incredible about the mem patuah and the mem satu. Mem, the Gemara says, is an abbreviation for the word ma'amar. Ma'amar means to speak, to talk. And the two mems represent mem patuah, ma'amar patuah, that sometimes there's a time to open your mouth. And then the other times there's a time to close your mouth, mem satu. And that's where the Yetzer Hara is going to fight you, in these two mems. When you're supposed to close your mouth, he's going to tell you to open your mouth, and when you're supposed to open your mouth, he's going to tell you to close it. That's why the Mekubalim write that if you take the word Mitzrayim, the first mem is a mem patuah, the last mem is a mem satu, and the letters in between are the letters Yetzer, to come and tell you that that's where the fight of the Yetzer Hara is. In a synagogue, it's obvious. Where there it's clear, you see all the signs on the wall. Asur ledaber bebet knesset b'shat tefillah. You're not supposed to talk in the synagogue at the time that they're praying. It's obvious. I don't think anybody argues. And even the people that talk, I don't think they say it's permissible. They just cannot control because they're victims of the Yetzer. So we have a modern Mitzrayim in our midst. The battle of Mitzrayim still is amongst us. The Yetzer confusing us between the two mems. Now I'll tell you another reason why people might rationalize speaking in the Bet Knesset. If you would ask most people, what's more important? The silent Amidah or the repetition? If you'd asked me 20 years ago, I would say, of course, the silent Amidah is more important. After all, we were taught in school that the only reason why we do the repetition is for people who didn't know how to pray. So they want to fulfill their obligation. The Azan repeats it. But today, everybody knows how to pray. Most people that come to the Beit Knesset and have a siddur, they know the Amidah by heart. So most of us look at the HAZARA as an old custom that really doesn't have too much value in the modern world. Comes a rabbi called the Ben Ishai, the Ben Yosef Haim in Baghdad, and he says, again according to the Mekubalim, that the HAZARA is mandatory, even in a place where everybody knows how to pray, and its value is higher than the Lahash. I say again, the value of the repetition Amidah is higher, and there's chances that it'll be more accepted even than the silent. And he says that's why. The silent Amidah, you know why we have to say it's silent? Because we're worried that it might get hijacked or sabotaged by what he calls mekatrigim, the spirits that try to grab the Kiddusha. So we have to say it low. He says, but the HAZARA is so holy that even the mekatrigim, even the prosecutors run away, so we can say it out loud. We're not scared of the prosecutors. That's why you can say it out loud. Because it's such a high level, nobody can touch it. The Amidah, the silent one, you have to say it low, but you have to sneak it in. But the HAZARA, broadcast it as loud as you want. So people think they could talk during the HAZARA. What I tell them is, if you're going to talk and you have a choice, speak during the silent Amidah. If you have something important to say and you're going to say it, better to talk during the silent Amidah. But you're in the middle of the silent Amidah, stop, go to your friend and talk to him. You're better off doing that than to interrupt the repetition, because the repetition is much higher. Now some of you will say, well, listen, I'm not a Kabbalist, so this doesn't talk to me. Well, maybe this one I'll tell you will talk to you. The way I look at it is imagine if you have a lawyer that's making his case for his defendant. He's in court, he's making his case. Now, my defendant, he's innocent, he deserves the benefit, and deserves all the innocent verdict and so on. And he's talking to the judge on behalf of the defendant. And as he's talking to the judge, the defendant is talking to somebody else in the courtroom. Or he's texting. Or he's fooling around, reading a book. So the judge calls the lawyer to the bench and says, come in. Your client is guilty. He says, how do you know he's guilty? You didn't let me finish the case. He says, look at his behavior. As you're petitioning for him, he's talking in the courtroom. That means he has no heart. He has no sense of what's going on over here. As you're petitioning and you're talking to me, his life is in my hands. And as you're talking to me to grant him a pardon, he's disinterested. Well, that's why I look at it the way the Hazan does the HAZARA. When the Hazan is making the HAZARA, he's petitioning God who's at the bench. And he's petitioning for us, we're the defendants. Give them wisdom, give them money, give them health. And what is the defendant doing as the lawyer is petitioning the judge at the bench? He's talking. So the judge says, are these people for real? As the judge is making his case, they're talking, they're not interested. So what should I give them a courtesy? Well, you don't have to be a mikubal for that to strike a chord in your heart. Last but not least, the reason why people talk in the Beit Knesset, I have to give them the benefit of the doubt. You've heard me say this many times. It's for a simple reason. They don't know what they're saying. They don't know what they're saying. The Siddur is no different than a Chinese newspaper. Now, how many days can a person be put in front of a Chinese newspaper and read words that he has no understanding what they mean, and you expect him to keep his attention? So, if we want to be proactive in solving this problem, which I think it has gotten better as a result of these little videos and the different hachamim that have gone on a campaign to talk about it, it's gotten better. But if we really want to approach the subject at its root, we have to teach people what the words mean in the Siddur. And then once they start understanding it, it becomes an interesting book. It becomes a book that you can't put down. It becomes something that you become riveted. You become so attached to it. It becomes something that is very, very attractive or magnetic. Baal Shem Tov said on the Pasuk, when Noah was building the Teva, it says, Zohar ta'aseh la Teva. That when you build the ark, you must put a window. But the Baal Shem understood that the word Teva can mean the word. The word, a Teva is a word. And he says, the word, you must put light into the word. Zohar ta'aseh la Teva, you must illuminate the word. The words of the Siddur have a lot of light inside of them. The problem is if you don't understand what they mean, so they're filled with darkness. So you must illuminate the word. How do you illuminate the word? With a translation, with an understanding, with a philosophy, with an ideology. So you must learn the Siddur. The Siddur must be taught. The Siddur is not only just to read, it's to understand. And therefore, Zohar ta'aseh la Teva. Therefore I say to Rabotai, let's not get confused between the Mem Patuah and the Mem Satur. The HAZARA's got us in a chokehold in the synagogue. We cannot tell the difference when we're supposed to have Ma'amar Patuah and Ma'amar Satur. And that's the battle. And that's what it means, Yitziat Mitzrayim. You have to get out of that Yetzer, to leave that Yetzer that causes us to talk when we're not supposed to. If you are going to talk, think about talking during the silent Amidah. Save your conversations for the silent Amidah and pay attention to the HAZARA. When the lawyer is petitioning your case, it will be very arrogant and brazen to do anything but to stand at attention and answer Amen. And with the proper elucidation of the Siddur becomes then a source of great light. Zohar ta'aseh la Teva.